Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Today's story comes from inside a military communications hub where procedures are clear, the stakes are high, and one overzealous officer decided to throw it all out the window. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Notify you for every report? Have fun waking up 50 times a night? Some background. I spent most of my military service in a Communications Command and Control Center, or CC for short. Now, that title sounds impressive, like I was in some high-tech nerve center with blinking lights and red phones. In reality, it was mostly emails, Excel spreadsheets, and phone calls. Think less Tom Clancy and more corporate IT help desk with uniforms. Our CC sat fairly high up the chain of command. We weren't the ones physically fixing radios or crawling into manholes to splice fiber cables. Our job was big picture, making sure communications across the entire military were functioning. We tracked outages, scheduled maintenance, and coordinated with different units to make sure someone was always fixing problems. The people actually doing the work in the CC were enlisted soldiers like me. But because the work was important enough, the commander of the CC was always an officer. That meant a rotating cast of lieutenants who came in, commanded a team that already knew the job better than they did, and then moved on. At the time of this story, I was an E3 with a lot of hours under my belt. I knew the job, I knew the procedures, and I knew how to keep things running smoothly. Then we got a new commander, an 01, fresh out of officer school, and she walked in with the classic, "I'm an officer, therefore you must respect me" attitude. I didn't care about her rank. I'd been in the military longer than her, I was older than her, and my work regularly involved calling up majors, lieutenant colonels, and sometimes even colonels. She was technically my boss, but realistically, she was just another name I had to loop into things. Still, I tried to play nice. Our procedure in the CC was straightforward. If we got a report like maintenance is starting, we'd log it and move on. We usually knew about maintenance ahead of time, and it rarely caused problems. But if we got a report like fiber optic cable cut, post X lost internet connection, that was a different story. In that case, we'd get on the phones, figure out what backups existed, who was responsible for repairs, and how long it would take to fix. Once we had all the relevant info, then we'd brief the commander. That system worked. It kept things running smoothly, and commanders only got woken up for actual emergencies. But our new 01 didn't like that. One day, she noticed a routine maintenance report on one of our screens that we hadn't told her about yet. She lost it. Her face got red, her voice shot up an octave, and she barked, "From now on, you are to notify me about every report." I raised an eyebrow. "Every report, ma'am?" "Yes," she snapped, "every single one. I don't care what it is. I want to know about it the second it comes in." Big mistake. See, the CC ran 24/7, but there was only one commander. Normally, if something truly urgent came up at night, we'd wake them. Otherwise, everything else waited until morning. But she just ordered us to call her for everything. Cue malicious compliance. That very night, the overnight crew started following her instructions. They called her for every little thing. Minor scheduled maintenance, call. A router reset in some backwater post, call. A test ping that failed once but passed on retry, call. They woke her up around 10 times that night, and that was them being merciful. By the next morning, she stumbled into the CC looking like a zombie. Her uniform was rumpled, her eyes had bags under them, and she nursed her coffee like it was life support. I was on the following night shift, and I decided to really drive home the point. "Ma'am," I said on the phone at 11:03 p.m., "we just got a report that Maintenance B is starting." "Okay," she muttered groggily. At 11:07 p.m., "Ma'am, someone rerouted a connection to a backup line. No impact." At 11:09 p.m., "Ma'am, another maintenance notice. No effect." Sometimes the reports came in 2 or 3 hours at a time. I dutifully called her for each one. By 3 a.m., she sounded like she was about to cry. By 4 a.m., she was basically doing the night shift right alongside me, except she was stuck doing it from her bed. Finally, at around 5 a.m., her voice cracked over the phone. "Fine, you don't have to report everything. You know what's important and what's not." And just like that, the original system was back in place. Funny thing is, she never brought it up again. I guess she figured out the hard way that micromanaging 24/7 doesn't work when your subordinates actually follow your orders to the letter. Keeping officers informed throughout the night as punishment? I mean, training is a well-known military practice, often reserved for the most arrogant of officers. And our second story. When do we close? We're supposed to be closed right now. Had a guy come in last minute last night at the convenience store I work closing shifts for. Usually it's not an issue. They're usually in and out fast. I was literally fetching the key to lock the doors when the guy in question came in, so I have to wait for him to finish before I can shut down. So again, I didn't think much because usually last-minute stragglers are quick. He wasn't. Between him practically inspecting every single item we had on shelves, going, "Wait, I need to get more things," 3 times after coming to the register, and then wanting to keep chatting after he'd paid and had his stuff bagged, despite me being non-receptive, it was almost 15 minutes past closing time. I've done everything I could to not give him reason to keep chatting, trying to be polite and nudge him out the door to no avail. Then he went and asked, "So what time do you close anyway?" So I told him that we were supposed to have locked up 15 minutes ago, hoping that he would get the message and head out. Dude laughed, then kept trying to talk like, "Oh, you guys close early. When I worked retail, we stayed open until midnight." And then he tried to go on a tangent about how things were when he was a retail worker, blah, blah, blah. I ended up having to be blunt, straight up telling him that if he's done shopping, I'll need him to leave so we can close. He, of course, got sour after that because, of course, it's terrible customer service. It's small and mostly inconvenient, but holy crap does it infuriate me when people know it's past or close to closing time and want to hang out despite it. And our next story. I invited my sister and her kids to the lake, but not her cheating boyfriend and his extra baggage. Hello, my sister's in her mid-30s, and I'm almost 30, RIP to my 20s. She's always been a handful and can be difficult. She got divorced officially a year ago, but was separated for a lot longer. She's been with this guy named Rick for a while. He has 3 kids with 3 different moms. The 2 older kids are teens. The most recent kid, baby, happened while dating my sister when he cheated on her. She decided to still see him, and now she's pregnant with his 4th kid, and now she's his 4th baby mama. She has 2 kids with her now ex-husband, so lots of kids. I basically told her I'm not thrilled that you stayed with this guy that cheated on you, but it's your life. On to the issue. My in-laws are wealthy and have multiple properties. Their newest one is a lake house that's tons of fun and in a nice area. Last year, my sister and my niece and nephew came, and it was a great time. My plan is to go every year, and I was hoping my niece and nephew would get a go each year. Now that my sister's with this guy, she thought everyone would get an invite. My issue isn't against the kids, but I don't know Rick or any of his other kids. I haven't met them once, so it's odd to me to invite them. Plus, I don't know these other moms. I just think there's too much risk involved inviting minors that my husband and I don't even know. The other moms could sue if someone gets hurt for all I know. The lake house has jet skis, water trampolines, boating, tubing, water slides, etc., which could cause injury. Just for some information, this Rick guy was on track to be some pro athlete when these other moms were around, so I'm already assuming they were gold diggers and after money. Rick's definitely not wealthy by any means, with child support and supporting all these kids with his career. Also, it's not our house. My in-laws are kind enough to allow me to invite my sister, my niece, and my nephew, but adding on 4 extra people is a little much in my opinion. I was at my niece and nephew's births, and they know my husband and in-laws really well, so I think it's just an entirely different situation. I told my sister today that her, my niece, and nephew are invited, but not everyone else. My sister's response is they won't be going because they're one unit and it all needs to be fair. It's so unfortunate because my niece and nephew will now be missing out. I think I can say any guy with 4 baby mamas is not responsible. He should have learned after the first kid, but if he didn't learn to wrap it up after the second, I wouldn't trust this guy with a goldfish, let alone at a very nice lake house. And our last story. City folk moved next to our farm, then tried to sue us for farming. My family's farm has been here for 3 generations. Corn and soybeans are our bread and butter, and my dad's been farming since before I was born. This land isn't just where we work, it's home. Every fence post, every barn beam, every scar in the soil has history tied to it. About 5 years back, the old Johnson place finally sold. It's a little 5-acre parcel that's been surrounded by our fields since the 1950s. Every farmer around here knows it's basically an island and a sea of crops. The Johnsons were quiet and minded their business, but when they passed on, their kids sold it to a couple from out of state. We'll call them the Greens. The Greens came chasing some Pinterest version of country living. Think quirky farmhouse chic meets city money hobby farm. Within a month, they had a red barn-style chicken coop and a couple of scrawny cows on the back lot. They'd brag about getting back to the land at the diner in town like they were pioneers. Then harvest season hit. Now, harvest isn't some 9-to-5 gig. It's a war with time and weather. The combines roar from dawn to well past midnight. Grain trucks rumble down the lane. Dust hangs in the air, and the smell of diesel and earth is everywhere. That's just farming. Not to the Greens. The first week, they called the sheriff, twice, claimed we were disturbing the peace with our industrial machinery. The deputy who came out grew up here. He leaned on the fence post, looked the Greens dead in the eye, and said, "Ma'am, this is farm country. It's harvest. This is what they do." Then he drove off. My dad, being the soft-hearted neighbor he is, actually felt guilty. My mom baked a pie, and he carried it over as a peace offering. He apologized for the noise, told them we'd be done soon, and even promised to leave the 2 fields bordering their place for last so they'd get a few extra days of quiet. He meant it, too. He lost sleep, pushed his schedule, and rearranged his whole operation just to be considerate. How did they repay him? They sued him. I wish I were joking. They actually hired some lawyer and filed a nuisance lawsuit against my dad. Their complaint claimed incessant noise, oppressive dust, and unbearable odors that were destroying their peaceful enjoyment of their property and devaluing their land. It didn't last long. The case got laughed out of court. Our state has ironclad right to farm laws. Those laws exist precisely to protect farmers from people like the Greens, who move next to an established operation and then whine about the realities of farm life. But that lawsuit, that was the end of Dad's patience. He tried to be nice. They took him to court. Lesson learned. The next spring, malicious compliance took root right alongside the corn. See, soybeans are the quieter neighbor crop, fewer passes with the tractor, no dryer humming late into the night. Corn is noisy, smelly, and demanding. Dad planted every acre bordering the Greens' property in corn, and he made sure it got special attention. Fertilizer runs done at 5:30 a.m. sharp on Saturdays, perfectly legal. The Greens woke up to the lovely aroma of liquid nitrogen drifting across their yard. Dad would tip his cap as he drove past. Spraying, that got done on the windiest legal day possible, just enough for the drift smell to linger near their chicken coop. Harvest? Oh, that corn got harvested first, right when the grain moisture was perfect, which just so happened to coincide with a week the Greens' friends from the city were visiting. Combines, grain carts, semis, all roaring from sunrise to long past dark. And the dryers? Our giant grain dryer hummed along day and night, a deep, steady sound like a jet engine lullaby. Dad even angled the exhaust fan toward their property line. The smell of drying corn is pungent, earthy, and constant. Sure enough, they tried calling the sheriff again. The same deputy rolled up, took one look, and sighed. "Ma'am, I already told you, it's a farm. If you didn't want farm smells and farm noise, you shouldn't have bought next to one." Then he left without even writing a report. After that, the call stopped. The Greens put up a ridiculously tall privacy fence, though it didn't do much against dust clouds or the echo of a combine header at 2 a.m. Now whenever I pass by, I see them standing on their porch, arms crossed, faces like thunder clouds, as another wave of corn dust drifts across their yard. Their dream of quiet country living has turned into exactly what they tried to escape with their lawsuit, the reality of agriculture. They wanted the country lifestyle without the country. They wanted to play farmer without dealing with actual farming. Instead, they ended up as unwilling front-row spectators to the most authentic rural experience possible. And Dad doesn't bother baking pies anymore. This is such a perfect example of people buying into the aesthetic of country living without understanding the reality. They wanted the Instagram version of farm life. Chickens in a cute red coop, a couple cows for decoration, maybe the occasional rustic selfie at sunset. But when real farming showed up, dust, diesel, machines running through the night, they treated it like a personal attack instead of the very thing that makes living in farm country possible. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.